Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you may be. And welcome to another Photo Creative Live. This time the challenge was the elements, and it was quite a challenge. If you don't know what Photo Creative is, it's a series of monthly photography challenges which I set, and then we meet here on YouTube for some feedback, critique amongst the group. There is a link in the description below if you would like to come and join in. So good evening everybody, it's so great to see you all once again. I know you struggled with this challenge. It was not an easy one. It really stretched the creativity as well as the camera skills. But there are nonetheless some really cool, very clever, wonderful interpretations within the group. Now, something which really blew me away is we recently did my Cameras Don't Take Pictures seminar and photo walk in London, and I was amazed to see just how many of you guys from the Photo Creative group were there. I was totally blown away by that. There was some amazing images. It was a totally brilliant day. Now bear with me one moment, because I want to show you. We've set up an album for people who were on that walk. If you were on that walk and you haven't contributed to the album, please do. But I mean, just look at these amazing pictures. There's some of mine at the top because obviously I got to post first. But look at these from down here. These are all people from the seminar and photo walk. These are your pictures, and there are some truly wonderful images in here. And I think the important takeaway from this is the seminar part in the morning is about getting everyone into the right mind space, because we need to be inspired. We need to be in that correct brain space in order to be able to think like photographers, to see, notice what's going on around us, be present to our surroundings, but also to be able to then take that out from our heads, down our arms, into the camera and make the image a reality. There is a link in the description below to this album, and I would strongly urge you go and have a look, because honestly everyone took some really cool pictures, some of which I just didn't see at all. I mean, where are we? Look at these. Irfan, I think that's a great picture. Isn't it a great picture? I didn't even see those guys myself because, hey, it's a big group of people. And of course, we all split up and we wander off in different directions and meet up again here and there along the way. Anyway, nonetheless, that was completely brilliant. And I think everyone did a fantastic job. Go and check out that album. Remember, there's a link in the description below. There is also a link to the Photo Creative group, so if you'd like to come and join in, please do. It's completely free. Donations are welcome to help cover some of the costs of running it, but I know a lot of people have got a lot of value from it. So there we go. That's all there is to say about that. Now listen up, folks, because I have an announcement. As you probably know, we've been working on the website, getting it all updated. Massive amount of work, but we are nearly there. Now, something which I know many of you have asked for is a dedicated feedback group, because when we go through these images, there are too many. I can't give every single person feedback. So now there will be another option. It's a paid group. It's a small group. There will only be 25 people in that group, and we will meet up a couple of times a month for a special feedback Ask Me Anything session where I can mentor you. I can guarantee that you'll get great feedback from myself and from the group. Now, if you would like to join this group, it should be ready to go fairly soon. There is a link in the description below where you can contact us and register for the wait list to join the feedback group. It's going to be called Picture Perfect. So please pop down there, ping us an email with your name and your email address, and as soon as we've got it up and running, you will be the first to know. There will only be 25 people in the group. It is first come, first served. And the way it will work is if someone leaves the group, the next person can then come in. So that's the way it's going to work, and you will be guaranteed some really great feedback. Also going to be doing some private online mentoring as well. That is coming very soon. You'll be able to have access to my calendar, book in your own dates. We'll again spend a couple of hours a month, just you and I, so I can coach you in an ongoing way and help you achieve the things that you want to achieve. Right, That's the news part out of the way. I guess it's time to start going and looking at some of your amazing pictures. Just before we do that, please remember to hit that like button. It really helps me out and the channel. It helps it propagate it. So smash that like button, people. Right, let's go have a look at the pictures from the Elements Challenge. Here we go. There really are some great ideas here. Now, the feedback which I give is appropriate to the image. If it's obvious that the photographer is someone who is fairly new to this, it's going to be very different to someone who is much more accomplished, because I want to coach you to help you become the photographer you want to be. As I have just said, I can't necessarily give feedback to everyone. Not in one go, not tonight. There are just too many images. Which is why I've set up the small private feedback group. If you're not signed up to my newsletter, because I'll be announcing it there as well, there is also a link in the description where you can go and sign up to that. So let me reorganize my screens just a little bit so I can see what's going on. There we go. I think we are good to go. Let's dive straight on in. There are some really intriguing ideas here about the elements, because it is such a difficult thing to work with. Who have we got here? David de Genova. I like your idea, David. I really do. Well spotted. This is pretty obvious. You are very present to your surroundings here, noticing what's going on, because look at those lovely little rays of light and the way they're just sort of dishing out off a reflection on the water, which I think is really kind of magical. It's also a little bit different, isn't it? Because usually we have all the rays and they're all coming down from the sky. Now we get them coming down and then bouncing outwards. Good on you, David, for noticing it. Unfortunately, it's kind of like the rays are beautiful. We need a subject in there. There's nothing you can do about that. I totally get it. But well captured, well noticed, well caught, and well executed, because, you know, it's all technically spot on. Exposure's correct. Capturing these little subtle light rays isn't necessarily the easiest thing to do. I quite like this little, I guess it's a dragonfly or something, I'm not sure. But nonetheless, well done, David. Jane Kilbride. Hello, Jane. A very classic Jane thing. It is a very, very beautiful image. You're very good at this. I love that little downy bit of feather there, and those droplets of water on there. Water, one of the elements. There are so many ways you can interpret this. Now notice, folks, Jane has kept it really, really simple. That's one of the reasons it's eye-catching. One of the reasons it is an interesting image. We've got a feather from a creature which flaps around and flies in the elements, and then we've got the element of water sitting on there. Very, very simple. We've just got the whites and different tones of green, and that is about all. It's one of the reasons it is indeed beautiful. Wendy Lamb. Wendy, you were on Cameras Don't Take Pictures. You know, you've got some amazing images there. There's a really nice picture actually of myself talking to you, Wendy, and a bunch of others on Tower Bridge. I can't remember who took it, but it's a cracking picture, and I have stolen it to use it on the Cameras Don't Take Pictures page. Let's just start easing up just a little bit. Now, how can we not excuse me, give you a little shout out. Earth and Thomas. That just made me laugh. Great sense of humour. One of the things I really, really love about this group. People have got a sense of humour. We don't take it too seriously. This is not a competition, it's a challenge. Good on you. Now, Jamie Smith. Hello, Jamie Smith, another one who was on Cameras Don't Take Pictures. Jamie, you're a very good photographer. That became totally apparent on the day. I know I've seen many of your images here, and you know, this has got some power to it, and it is quite elemental. Not quite, it is elemental. Love all those little droplets of water. Even the spray which is on the lens is adding to it. I think there's spray on the lens, these little tiny little bits of whatever it is going on here, but they don't detract, they add to it. Now I like your low angle, the way you've shot with a longish lens, and the subtlety of the colours. It can be very, very tempting with an image like this to start trying to overdo it, to start oversaturating, over pimping it, to select that sky and push that dehaze in there and try and make it super powerful. The fact you've kind of left it alone and let it be what it is makes it more natural and, I think, more powerful, more elemental. Great job, Jamie. Now I hope you're all sitting comfortably. I've got myself a lovely glass of non-alcohol Guinness here, Guinness Zero. If you don't do alcohol for whatever reason, this is a good one. I'm going to have a sip. Maud McLean. Another beautifully subtle image which is capturing that feeling of the elements. You know, look at the spray, the wind whipping the spray off of the waves. You know, we've got water, we've got wind, two major elements. I quite like those little bits of rock in the foreground there too, Maud. Now, it's not often I would say this, but I think you might have got away with just a little bit more rock in the foreground. Usually, I think we are tempted to add a little bit too much, but nonetheless, I think it's a great job. I also like the one you put on the inset here on the right. I think this is also a cracking image. In fact, I almost prefer this one to the one you entered. Not that it makes any difference. You know, it's just a different angle on the same thing, and this is very important for us as photographers to, you know, try different things. Don't keep taking the same picture over and over again hoping one will get better. We've got to do something. Composition is all about arms and legs and hands and feet. It's about moving our bodies, and I think both of these are really great images, Maud. They just work. Dave Hansen. I find this one intriguing because obviously, you know, the rock, the strength is elemental. Your image really works well because of that little tiny splash of red, and I like the way you've given all that negative space and allowed for this craggy area here with this deep sort of bit of shadow. You've been bold in your positioning of the subject with the composition, in positioning them in the middle on that top third line. We can see that they've climbed up. It's really, really nicely executed, this. Rock, is it an element? I don't know, maybe not according to a periodic table, maybe it is. I didn't do science, I didn't do much school really, I just sort of walked out, to be honest. But nonetheless, it is a really great image, and it's again the simplicity, but like with Jane's image, which I think makes that one work. What have we got here? That's rather lovely. Andrew Lovelock. That is a very beautiful picture of a waterfall. Now, Andrew has shot this one using a wide angle lens. We can see this because there's a bit of distortion going on, but it has that feeling of intimacy. Focal length does so much more than just make far off things come closer, because it allows us to get very, very close and intimate with the subject, which is, you know, these rocks, these mossy rocks and little rills of water running down through. I rather like this crisscross with these logs down in the bottom here. I think it's beautifully executed, Andrew. And again, you've been subtle with it, which I kind of like. I think it works. The post-production has been done very, very gently. If you did any, I don't know, maybe it's straight out of the camera as a JPEG, doesn't matter. But it is a very, very subtle. It can be tempting to over-colorize, overdo things. The other thing I like is you've got the shutter speed just right, that there isn't too much blur in that water. It can be, again, very easy to leave the shutter open too longer and the whole thing just sort of fades and there's no texture left. But you have got that texture still in the water. The shutter speed was just the right amount of time to allow it to do that, and there was just enough breeze to combine with that shutter speed, have just that little hint of movement in those leaves in the corner. Nicely done, Andrew. Let's just ease up. Who's this? Carrie. Again, I think it's great fun, you know. If you're here, Carrie, I'd love to know, did you just put a little bit of petrol or something on that axe and set fire to it to get that mean and angry look? The man with his axe on fire. There was a song, who was it by? It was called The Woodchopper's Ball. I can't remember who it was who did it. But nonetheless, I think it's a great picture. I think it's a good fun picture. How could it be improved as you know, elements? I don't know. I think possibly it could be made stronger. This is just my thoughts. It could be made stronger, Carrie, had you got your model here holding the axe head out, kind of like this. I think it would have been more of a, you know, get the fire in your face, rather than sort of, I've got fire. It's kind of like, I'm going to give you fire. Just a thought, it may or may not have worked. But nonetheless, cracking picture. Starburst through the trees. Who's this? David Whitfield. Hello, David. Where's that? That looks somewhere really warm. Now, I'm not sure where are we going with this, the element. I suppose the sun is an element. We've got fire, we've got heat. Now, you've caught a nice little starburst going on there. Starbursts tend to get diluted a bit when they get too fragmented, as in when they're coming through the leaves of a tree. But nonetheless, it's pretty good. How could we have improved that? Now, I like the fact you've gone out either late or early in the day to get that low-angled sun. My local park in West Sussex. Do you know what? I thought it was Australia. Interesting, isn't it? There's something about the undergrowth there. I don't know, whatever. I do wonder, actually, David, if maybe you'd move to the right a bit and had the starburst next to the tree rather than through the tree, whether it might not have worked just that little bit more. But nonetheless, you know, how do we make a starburst? It's a small aperture. So write down F16. Where were you, David? F16, F22, somewhere around that to get that starburst to work. Interested to know. Nonetheless, it's, you know, it's well executed. It's nice and sharp. What more can I say? But I just feel compositionally it might have worked better if it was a little more simple. It's always difficult when there's a lot of undergrowth, but possibly moving to the right, you'd have taken the sun with you, give it a little bit more space and have the starburst in the sky and made the sun more of the element, because this is more about the tree. Just my thoughts. F22, thanks David. What have we got here? Erindira Law. Erindira, it's a very pretty picture of a flower. I'm not quite getting the elemental aspect from it. It is a nice picture. I like the way you've composed it. I like the way you've used the long lens here, or longer lens, in order to separate it from the background, using the opposite, using a wider aperture to get that slightly shallow depth of field. And Dira, the only thing I would say is you've got a little bit of camera shake going on in here. Even the sharpest part, the flower, is not quite in focus. Though I say camera shake, it might not have been. It's very easy when you're in close, you've got a very shallow depth of field. It's easy to mess that depth of field up. Maybe it isn't camera shake. It could be that you focused on the flower and then breathed or just paused a second before squeezing the rest of the way of that shot. Maybe you moved back just a touch, and if you'd still got first pressure on the button or your back button focusing, you'd locked your focus. Just that tiny movement, if you rocked back a tiny bit or moved back as you breathed or whatever, you'd shift that piece of sharpness that was on the flower back towards you, and then it would be focused too far in front of it, and you might get that effect. It's not quite sharp. That's my coaching. It's so many things to watch, aren't there? Thank you, Jane Barnes. Yes, everybody, please remember to hit that like button and do me a favour. Who have we got here? Hey, Patrick. I guess your element here is the air, because we've got a cable car, we've got people riding through the air, and the fact you put all that sky in there, it's a pretty strong statement. It's quite a strong, what am I trying to say, brave composition, allowing that negative space in there. I'm not sure it works terribly well as a photograph, simply because I think possibly this bit of foreground opposite to those rocks we saw earlier, they somehow distract a little bit, and where the cable car is chopped off, I can't help wondering if maybe if you could have approached this with a slightly longer lens and just managed to concentrate more on the cable cars against the sky, and still given it all that negative space, I think it would have been more elemental, I guess is the word. But otherwise, yep, your exposure's good, everything's good. I don't think you're doing yourself any favours with this. Possibly a different angle, if you could do it. I wasn't there. Maybe you were unable to do that. Let's start easing up a little further. Hello, Jim Graves. I get it. We have got, what's the word? Atrophy, haven't we? Rust. Things falling apart. Things being a victim of the elements. So I totally get it. Water dissolves everything over time, you're saying. Even stainless steel. Firebox started life as a drum and a washing machine. I knew it was a washing machine drum because I had a washing machine drum when I was a kid. Lying on the ground, and I used to shovel sand in it and pretend I was mixing concrete. Strange boy. I get your take on element. I really, really do. I think you've done a great job. It's a creative way of thinking. The photo's not quite working, and I think it's possibly like you've chosen a difficult thing to photograph to really make it pop, to make it work. I don't know, how could you improve upon this? I'm not entirely sure that you could. I'm open to suggestions, people, please, in the chat. What do you think may have worked to help Jim here just lift this a little bit? Please pop something in the chat and I will keep an eye on it, because I do like the idea, but somehow it's not quite working as a powerful image that says element. Ideas in the chat, please. You're very welcome, Indira. Jane Barnes said that using an old washing machine drum to mix concrete as a game is perfectly logical. Like you, Jane. Still keeping an eye open for any suggestions for Jim here. Tracy Strachan. That, you put a lot of work into that, Tracy, and I really, really like it. I do. It's like, I don't know what you've got floating on the water here. I love that dark background. I really like the way you have worked so carefully. I can't imagine how long this must have taken you to get those two little matchsticks just bent into that little shape, which gives them that human thing, and combining the flame at the top. I really congratulate you, because you put a lot of work into that. Again, using water to collect a reflection of it as well. And the light is really rather nice. It's very subtle. Look, there is a highlight on this edge of the match and shade on that, which is just giving that little gentle shape to the matchstick. I like your composition. You've given it a lot of space. Negative space. It makes it a little bit lonely. In this case, it isn't lonely, because it's about a couple with a bit of a flame of passion going on there. Again, Tracy, I can't quite imagine how much work you must have put into that to make it come together. Drop a Guinness. So, what do we got here? Going back to your suggestions, which is really great. Thank you, guys. David Mills saying, look down from above, including the whole article. Yeah, possibly. I think that could work. You're giving me ideas, guys. This is why I asked you to give your ideas. So building on your idea there, David, would probably be almost keeping that arc and looking straight down on it, you know, completely square on from directly above, but then maybe give it more space to the side, so you've kind of got this mottly, non-distinct background, and then just having the arc sort of lifting up like this above it with a load of space. I think it would have made it stronger, because then you'd really look at the arc to go, well, what on earth's that? And you'd have to think about it for a minute. Good idea, David. Ken Harmon, lighting is flat, maybe flash from the side. Yeah, absolutely. The light is very flat, and maybe a flash coming in, a little puff of flash. Not everyone's cup of tea. I very rarely use flash at all, because I'm too lazy and can't be bothered. But that's me. The light is a thing here. Yeah, Sandra Sim saying look straight down, cut out the grass. Yeah, that could work. So we're either cutting out the grass or giving it more, which would then emphasize that shape, make you think about it. Mary Sue Voss saying Rust, I would have taken it from a different perspective, perhaps more level with the top edge, so the side is not seen at all. That's an interesting thought. Jane saying one looking straight down through the hole would also create interesting shadows through the holes. You see, there are so many possibilities. This is the great thing about photography. There are so many ideas. We all see things in completely different ways. So when you go somewhere to take some pictures, like I was saying about, you know, the waves in the beach, always remember to try as many different things as possible. So look, we've got a whole bunch of different suggestions for the same subject to try and find ways in which we could make it work. I hope that was helpful, Jim. Thank you everybody for your contributions. It's one of the things I love about this group. Hey Jim, people, you know, join in and help out. Ash Milburn, excuse me. My someone who lives next door, their kids are all ill. I'm hoping I haven't got it. I think this is a really rather lovely angle on this building, Ash. I like the way it's stepping down from the corner, the way you position this corner to sort of be filled up, and almost the weight of this is balancing the sky, the emptiness above. Again, very subtly handled. The pier going off into the distance, I'm not sure I'm quite getting elements from it. The whole, you know, the main thing way I set the challenges is to try and force people to think of ways to determine things. I get you got a link there, you've got water, there is an element in there. Water, air and water, there is an element in there. But I'm not quite feeling that the element is the standout part of the picture. Nonetheless, it's a well taken photograph. I think black and white absolutely works. The exposure is good, everything's nice and sharp, you've got tons of depth of field, technically all spot on. Work time calls, David Radcliffe. Have a good night at work, all day at work. I'm not sure where you are in the world. So what else have we got going on here? So many things. We've got to have a look at this. Martin Jeffers. Fire. Fire is strong, isn't it? Fire always draws us, whether it's in horror, looking at some of these terrible wildfires that have been going on in various places around the world. They're horrific. Someone was showing me some pictures taken across the lake in Vancouver recently, where she was visiting her family and son over there. And, you know, it must have been so frightening. But we are drawn to fire. It is a very powerful element, possibly the most powerful, the most fascinating, let's say. So I kind of like the way you've done this, Martin. You've put a bit of work into this, you put a bit of something on there, a bit of lighter fuel or something to set fire to those roses. And I like the way you're just using the light from the roses against that dark background, the way it's spilling onto those petals. Flames are not an easy thing to photograph because it's very easy for them to burn out just a bit too much, particularly when you've got so much contrast between the flowers and the background. Now in this case it may have just helped you a bit if you'd had a little bit more light available, and I know you wanted to go for the dark look and light it with the flames. This is where balancing light comes in, whether it's having a little bit of available light just to have a little bit more light on the plant, and then the difference between the flame and the rose wouldn't have been quite so much. Now I'm not a big, well, things, you know, I'm not a big disser of burnt highlights. They do, but I think these are just a little bit too far gone. I'm being hard on you, Martin, because it's a great idea, and if I'm not hard, the coaching's no good. Nicely done. Let's see if we can get a little bit further up. Neil Le Tournier, very nice indeed. Daniel Briggs. I really find this kind of fascinating because although we're looking at, you know, the skeleton of a very old ship or boat or whatever, goodness knows how old it is, what we're seeing here is what the elements can do to man-made things, and I like that. I like that thought, and I like your thinking, Daniel. I really do. Does it need the glassy water? Possibly. You've used a slow shutter speed in order to make that water just kind of mist over just a little bit, which is great. I think it would have worked either way, whether you had ripples or not, but it kind of works in this context because we're seeing the deceptive nature. The water looks so calm. You know, look what water, wind, etc. has done to this boat. I think you may have been able to take your exposure down just a little touch. This is my coaching. It would have made it just that bit more moody, and it might have helped that sky out just a bit. If you shot raw and we're doing post-production, particularly now with Lightroom, there is a new thing. You can just go select sky and it finds it. You can just very subtly reduce it, just a little touch. But I really like your idea. I'm wondering if a little more space around the boat might have helped. I know I am a negative space junkie. What do you think, people? Keep it all clear and empty to the sides. If it's possible, there might be other things going on there. There might be a brand new red rubber dinghy or something next to it. But what do you think? If Daniel could have given it just a little bit more space to make it just that little bit less significant, because let's face it, in the scheme of the elements, our actions are a little less significant. So guys, do you think a little more space or as it is? What do you think? Just pop a couple of words in the chat, because I do like it. I'm not knocking you, I'm just interested. Susan saying as is, stay the same. No worries, Daniel, you're very welcome. Most people are disagreeing with me as well, so that's cool. That's really cool. Yeah, everyone's saying leave it alone, don't give it more space, and that is completely valid because I'm a negative space junkie. I tend to give things more space, but that's just me. It's just what I like. It doesn't mean it's right. Yeah. Okay, I think we've only got one vote. We've only got one person that agrees with me so far. That's completely cool. Great image, not a problem. I close that a bit quick. Sounds like I'm sulking. I'm not. Who's this? Hazel Fox. Interesting, Hazel. Interesting. What's going on here? So Hazel, I'm guessing that your elements are, of course, water and wind because of the sailing boat, the little model sailing boat with a very, very wet sail. How could we improve on this image? My thoughts, Hazel, would be that I don't know what's going on the bank. Something, because I can see from this bright reflection there's probably maybe a lot of clutter there. But if it was possible to shoot from a lower angle without ruining what's going on in the, you know, the subject, I think it might have helped because we're looking down just a little bit. I don't really know. How could we improve upon this? I like your idea. Guys, let's do that thing we did before. How do you think we could improve on this? Because we haven't tried this before, getting everyone to contribute an idea, because it helps everyone out, seeing the thoughts that everyone else has. Please, how could we help Hazel out with this one? I think the shadows, the ripples, I like the zigzaggy things going on in the background. This bright area is a little annoying. I'm guessing it's another sailboat on a sail pond. How could we improve it? For me, it would be to get down close to the water, but then you may have had a really messy background. It would have been difficult possibly to separate it from that background with the depth of field. Certainly would have made it harder to shoot because you'd have a shallower depth of field. Okay, we got some great suggestions coming in. Well done, guys. Linda and Neil saying a little more space. Bob saying get level with the water. That was my idea. And yeah, I think that could work. Just depends what's going on in the background. Could you blur it out sufficiently that we didn't notice it? Crop the reflection and wait for the moment when there's some wind in the sails from David Mill. That's a good idea. The sails are like they're made out of hankies or something. I think they've absorbed a lot of water. I think they're unlikely to puff, but I could be wrong. Yeah, Wendy's saying top corner's a bit distracting. Iron's saying suggesting put a vignette on it. Boat smaller and not in the middle. Yeah, I get where you're going with that, Michelle. The thing is, we'd have lost the reflection, which is why I'd like to see the other bank, but the other bank might be horrible. There might be a great big red post box, or I don't know, some cave troll standing over there like me. Cut it in half, left to right, to make a good abstract. That's interesting. Yeah. Remove the top hand reflection. It's not a reflection of someone waiting for a clear background. Great ideas, guys. If you're watching Hazel, have a little look at their ideas, because these are some really great suggestions. Just goes to show how we all think so very differently. Eastern Smile. Hello, my friend. Yeah. The moon, is it an element? Well, it has an effect on our biggest element, of course, the ocean, doesn't it? Because it pulls them around and causes the tides. I like the light you got on there. It's almost like a warm evening sunlight. Now, the moon is not an easy thing to photograph. It's very difficult to get a nice exposure. If you were going for the black look, you've done a really nice job, the way it's just sitting in black. It's also difficult to get a good shot of the moon unless you've got a very, very long, good quality lens. Simply because you often have to crop in and then it can start to fall apart. It's also easy to get a little bit of camera shake. And I think that's what's going on here, because it isn't quite sharp. It's either cropped in a lot in order to fill the frame, or possibly you've got a bit of camera shake from, you know, trying to hold the camera still with a big long lens. But I like your idea. I really like your idea. And I like that warm tone colour, because, you know, the moon is usually sort of grey blue. We've got that lovely red thing going on there. Jill Mays. Hello, Jill Mays. What have we got going on here? Elements. We've got water tumbling down the stone. So the way I interpreted this, and I could be wrong, this is just, we all have our own thoughts, our own interpretations, is possibly the effect the water can have on the stones, because look, they're all rounded and circular. It's an element wearing stuff away over time. Those rocks weren't always round. It was the water and possibly some waves that came in to do it. I really, really appreciate that you've joined in the challenge. You've been looking around finding something that you can photograph to do it. I think the light's a bit flat. This is my coaching, which isn't really helping. And the angle of view is kind of ordinary. It's the angle we probably always see it from. And one of the problems when we see something in a photograph from the angle we always see it from is that unless the light is spectacular, the picture just looks ordinary, because it's a scene we will have seen many, many times. Whether or not you could shoot a little lower, possibly across the top of those little round, you know, pebbles that have been worn by the water towards those little drips, I don't know. It's also incredibly difficult because, you know, you are where you are when you're there. But had there been a bit of a rain, you know, a bit of a rainstorm, some water coming down, and then possibly shot across it, if you'd managed to find just the right moment. I'm being harsh, I know. I've got my coach head on. But nonetheless, good effort, and I like your thinking. It could have worked kind of well maybe if there was this little cairn up here, possibly looking at that and some of the wetness behind, I'm not sure. It's a difficult thing to photograph and make it interesting, particularly on a day when you've got very flat light. Good effort though, Jill. I love this picture. I really, really do. Zuk Sultan, Noah's Ark on the forest path. I really like it because it's on a forest park. On a forest path, because it is unusual, isn't it? Bizarrely, it reminds me of a time when I was traveling in Turkey, and I'd gone on my own. I was walking off up through some hills. I spent the whole day walking up through some hills and mountains and over the top and down to the sea on the other side. And I was thinking, how the hell am I going to get back? Because I've been walking for like 5 or 6 hours and it's now well gone midday. Have I got to turn around? Luckily, there was a water taxi going along to a little village. They picked me up and took me right back to where I'd started. But on that walk in the hills, I found a boat similar to this sitting at the side of a path. And you think, how on earth did it get here? Noah's Ark, the flood. I like your thinking. I really do. I think it's a cracking picture. Not sure I'm quite getting the element thing from it, but I still wanted to give you a little bit of feedback when I saw it. How could we improve it? This case, I think it's pretty straightforward, Suk. It probably needs a little bit more space. You see the edge of the boat is so close to the edge of the frame. I quite like your positioning, but I think a pace back to just stop it being so close to the edge might have helped. That's about all. And it's good fun. Who knows? Maybe there was a flood to that level and that boat got left up on top of the hill. Who knows? More flames. Who was that? Paul Martin. I'm going to move on. Forgive me, Paul. I'm going to look at a few more pictures. Here's into Carrie Casca. I like this picture, Carrie. And I have to say, I did return to it many times. I'm sorry I didn't take it further. But I think you've done a wonderful job of capturing an element without showing the element. It's almost ethereal. I like that chair. Like, what's it doing there? Why is it there? Why has it got those balloons tied to it? But just by using that slightly slower shutter speed, letting those balloons blur a bit, we know it's windy. We know there's a breeze because of the angle and because of the movement. Yeah, everything else is really, really still. I think it's a great idea. I even quite like the light. I think you could have got away possibly with lowering the exposure a bit, or if you were shooting raw carry, you could just bring those highlights down a bit. The thing with bringing highlights down and shadows up and all that stuff is that cameras don't see light the same way that our eyes do. We see far more detail in the shadow and the highlight than the camera can capture, even though the cameras have got very, very good at capturing, you know, a wider dynamic range now. Our eyes are still much, much better. This is where shooting raw and doing a bit of post-production does come in, because you can just lift the shadows a bit, you can just pull the highlights down a bit so it looks a bit more natural, because I don't think it looked quite as contrasty in real life. That would be my coaching. Other than that, I think it's a cracking picture, Carrie. Me being a negative space junkie, I would have been inclined to give it a little bit more room, a little bit more of the greenery in the background. Because of that strong red, it would have still popped and stood out. That's just me. I'm a lonely man. I sit there on my own trying to make the world more lonely. I don't know, I like negative space. What more can I say? Great shot. Great shot. Where are we? It is, crumbs, it's 22. I need to move up a little further. There are some great ideas. What a great elemental picture here from our friend Cheyenne, whose name isn't Cheyenne. Good on you. I've never had a go at astrophotography. Tom at Clickersnap has recently bought, I don't know, some killer death telescope, and I'm hoping that we're going to get a time when we've got a clear night sky, we're both available, he's able to come out, and we're going to see if we can do a video about this sort of thing. Yeah, what can be more elemental than a distant, you know, star world or galaxy or whatever. Good effort, Shana. You're a pretty accomplished photographer. There's a little bit of blur, a little bit of fuzz. I don't know if it's cropping. I've no idea. It is such a difficult thing to do, and I know nothing about astrophotography, but it sure is elemental. Oh, that's better. Let's ease up a bit so we can at least have a little look at a few more on the way through. Kenneth Caldwell. I think that's a really interesting thing going on here, Kenneth, because there's light. I don't know whether you pushed it through a prism. I don't know whether it's something happening from light reflecting off something else coming through a window that's creating this, you know, to split the light on the ceiling. But I do really rather like it. My coaching, Kenneth, is there is one thing that to me is just spoiling it. Anyone want to put something in the chat? Just throw something in the chat. Have you noticed it? Are you seeing what I'm seeing? In fact, there's two things that are getting it for me, which is a shame because I kind of like it. We're using sort of light as an element, and the way the light is split. Yeah. Come on, somebody else comment. The lamp fitting. Yeah, exactly. Bottom object as well. We've got the light fitting, and there's the corner of a picture just poking its face in. Other than that, I really like it. And I don't have a problem with the wall here at all. The patterning on that wall. In fact, I quite like that cutting it across the corner there, because it makes us think. Initially, it would be like, wow, what's that? We see that sort of rainbow arc on the ceiling and some little highlights and some textures, and then we get a clue as to what it is as a secondary thing when we notice the textured wall. It's one of those things, really difficult. Just a little twist up of the camera, a little twist, a little movement, and we could have lost the light fitting and the picture frame. You may like them, you know. I don't know. I famously left a twig in a landscape photograph, which caused uproar. I liked the twig. Maybe, Kenneth, you like having the lamp fitting there. You're being disruptive too. Either way, let's just ease up some more now. Nick Smith. Yeah. Again, I think you've done a great job of capturing a wet street. Look, not a soul in sight. Nobody's about. We are saying that, you know, the elements are abroad. We've got a stormy, wet day. Now, the sky's great, and I do like your location. I do like it. I think you could have made it stronger by not shooting out of an upstairs window, because that's made it just a little more ordinary. Forgive me. Had you got an umbrella and gone out into that weather and just shot along that empty street, or, you know, maybe from the middle of the road, we got that kind of line where the two rows of tarmac join. You know, I know we've got reflections in the water, in the, you know, wet road, that's what I'm trying to say, but they're not really strong enough reflections to sort of make it totally pop. Again, I like the raindrops on the lens. I think they add to the feeling. I don't have a problem. Oh, that's interesting. Mike Bartlow's just said, remove the water spots on the lens. There's me saying, I quite like the water spots on the lens, you see. It's all subjective. You cannot please all the people all the time. The only person you've got to please is you. And those pictures that please you, they are your style. And that is all there is to it. Just a thought, maybe shooting along the road and keeping tons of sky in it, more negative space again, because the sky's great, and I just think the empty, deserted, no one about look would have probably worked quite well. Nice shot though, Nick. Nice effort, nice effort. I'm going to ease up a little faster and just have a little look at some more here. I like, who's this? Mary Suvoth. I think that's really quite a nice, good, fun picture, actually, Mary Sue. Like the way you've got that, just that little highlight clipping the top of this front fountain. It's just good fun. I think your black and white treatment is really good. I don't know if you're shooting raw, but I think possibly again, if you could take that highlight down just a bit, not an easy thing to do. But I think it's a nice composition, especially you're using a fast shutter speed, you've frozen the water droplets. I think there's possibly several angles you could explore, but nonetheless I like it. That great gush going on behind. It's showing a little bit of a power of water and also a little bit of beauty and subtlety too. Thank you very much for that, Jane Barnes. Which is something I haven't said. Any donations, you can do a donation just by hitting the little dollar sign underneath this live stream video. If you want to make a small donation to help support Photo Creative, that is one way you can do it, or there is a little button on the Photo Creative page on the website where you can make a donation to help keep it going if you like. Jane, thank you for that, appreciate it, as I'm sure we all do. I'm going to scroll up a bit further because it is 10 to and we need to come to an end before very long, but I want to make sure we get to the top. Hervé, you took some awesome pictures on Cameras Don't Take Pictures on that photo walk. There's a couple in there which I think are absolutely cracking. Hervé Guibaud, it was a pleasure to meet you, sir. I'm not a fan of wing shots, but I really like that one. And you know, we're looking down on this fragile little planet which is so heartbreakingly beautiful beneath us, and I like your treatment of it. I like the contrasty look, the dark sky, and you know, the element of the atmosphere going on below with those clouds floating in it. It's an interestingly shaped wing as well. It is very narrow and it's got a curve to it. What more can I say? I really like your thinking. I like the idea of looking at an element in this way. And as a wing, and you know, as I say, I'm not a huge fan of wing shots. I see them too often, but I think you've done a really cracking job with this one. It is very much a noteworthy wing shot. Let's ease up a little further and have a little look to see what else we can have a talk about. Now there is a very beautiful photograph from David Mill. I'm pausing, I'm quiet because I'm sort of trying to digest an elemental thing and I'm not quite getting it, no matter how beautiful this is. This is such a well photographed landscape, sunset over the water. It is so calm and it is so peaceful. And something I really like in the way you've treated it, David, we've seen this quite a lot tonight, is the subtlety with which you have treated the image. You know, you've let it be gentle, you let it be soft, the shadows are not totally black. It's a gentle, hazy, warm sunset. Little tip for everybody, by the way, something which works if you are doing a bit of post-production. We've got a very dark lower area here, and then where the sky is still quite bright above, if you use a grad filter, you can do it on the camera of course, but if you use a grad filter in I only know Lightroom, I know there's other software but I don't use it, I don't know it. I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying I don't know it. Just put a grad filter down, pretty much down to sort of, you know, where the sun is, all the way from the top, so it's a very soft grad. If you just reduce the exposure, don't do anything fancy, just take the exposure down, maybe 0.3 of a stop, 0.5 of a stop, so it's very gentle. It actually looks more natural, because if you think about it, when we look at a horizon with our eyes, the top part is darker than the lower down bit, and if you actually go out and look up, it's much darker up there than it is over there. So when you put that faint grad on, it's only a faint one, only a faint one. If you do it too much it looks weird. Just a little faint one. It just sort of helps make it look more natural. Susanna Smith, I completely agree with you. I love how the water becomes the sky. Exactly, it is beautifully done. I guess the fieriness of it all is the elemental part here. We've got air and fire and water, so a beautifully taken photograph, David. I can't knock it. I'm sorry I didn't take it further into my, you know, favourites of the month. They're not winners, they're just my favourites. It's now 528, so we're just going to have a quick squiz up through here. Look, lots of elemental fire things going on. Beautifully done, flying through the elements. Yeah, what more can I say? You guys who entered this, you really took on a big challenge, and I really, really respect you for that, because it is a difficult one. It is not an easy one for you to do. Nonetheless, you got stuck in and you gave it a go. Now, I know not everyone can enter all the time, but you know, we've got a lot of people in this group now and it is growing. And welcome to all of you who are new to the group. Possibly it's your first time being here. Great to see you. The only thing I would say is try and enter the challenges, because we learn by doing. Photography is a little bit of knowledge and a lot of practice. And this is just one way to get you to practice. And the harder, the more difficult you find the challenge, the more you are likely to get from it. The more you are likely to learn. Because, you know, if we go to the gym and lift light weights that we find no effort in, it's not going to make any difference, is it? It's the ones that we don't want to lift, or the stair machine that we don't want to spend 20 minutes on. They're the things that do us good. Sorry fact of the world, but hey, don't you feel good when you've done it? You think, hey, I did that. Yeah, I didn't want to, but I still did it. So, where are we going to go now? I just want to say a quick thing before we go into the full feedback bit, that what is going on here? I am struggling. That's better. Little thing I just want to pop in here and just let you know, we have still got a few places left on the Lanzarote workshop. I think there's 2. That's all going ahead. Everything's sorted. Restaurant is booked for the first night. You guys who are coming will be getting an email from me soon just to confirm a couple of things. We've also got 3 places on Morocco. Now, I know they had the earthquake and, you know, that upset a few things. The lovely lady we visit in the mountains, she, her family and her village are completely safe and they're okay. Marrakesh has not been hit as hard as we have maybe been led to believe. I think it's the media making a big fuss because it's a tourist destination, it's a big city, and the more they can scream, you know, Morocco's been leveled, the more consternation they cause. I don't like the media. I'm not saying Morocco was unaffected. It wasn't. People got hurt, people lost things, and it is still a tragedy, but it was way, way, way to the south that the epicenter happened. And the best way we can help these people is to go to these villages. We're not going to the earthquake centres, but in the rural areas and the villages where we will be spending time, where we will be spending some money in the cafes and the villages and the shops and the little restaurants. That actually makes a difference. So if you've been thinking about coming, please come, because just by being there, you're going to make a difference. Obviously, I want you to come. It's how I make a living. But you will make a difference. So if you're hedging your bets, don't feel like you might be a disaster tourist, because it isn't quite like that. My partners in Morocco have been to the villages, have been places where we're going, and I have this firsthand from them. Quick question from Andrew. When am I doing the Ireland workshop? We will probably get it live before long, and it will be sometime next, probably autumn, end of the summer, early autumn next year. We put it out a little bit ambitiously this year because, you know, we just thought, well, let's put it out there and see what happens. Unfortunately, people in Ireland were unable to make it. You know, it's not that far, nothing in Ireland's very far away, but it was really short notice for any of you guys thinking of coming over from Canada, Australia, whatever, to come and do that. But yeah, Jamie, we're doing another Cameras Don't Take Pictures next year, and who knows, we might do something else. But anyway, let's move on. Let's have a look at your wonderful, beautiful, amazing images, the ones which I just kept coming back to and got captivated by. Dina Peters. I really, really loved this Earth, Wind, Fire and Water. it's something just, it really is elemental. I can't explain what it does, but it somehow provokes a bit of an emotion within me. Hello, Michelle Lorraine. Sorry to interrupt. I just saw you from the last couple of years ago, Lanzarote, last year maybe. Good to see you again. Come on another workshop. Sorry, Dina. I love your picture. It is calming, and yet it has got such an energy. And it's also kind of clever, I find, because our eyes are usually drawn to the brightest part of the picture, which are those sort of really powerful highlights on the water. But somehow you've managed to make an image with those powerful bright highlights. But I find it's the flames, it's the burning, whatever it is, piece of wood that I'm drawn to. I'm also fascinated by the little ripples behind it. I have a feeling you put a lot of work into this, Susanna, because it suggests to me, by the angle of the flames, you've set fire to something and given it a push, and it's sort of skimming across the water a bit as you are capturing it. I could be very wrong. But I just think it is a very, very beautiful image. It's even though it's fire, it's sort of calming as well. The way you've done this, where it's dark, you're working late in the afternoon, you pulled the exposure down, you've argued with your camera's light meter and gone, yeah, because I suspect the camera would have tried to make that shot brighter. Now, had it done that, you'd have lost the flames, because I don't know, I could be wrong, I could be talking nonsense, but I think it's a beautiful picture, Dana. Next, we have got Stella, our friend Stella Fag. Totally different take on elemental. And I love it. I just think it's a cracking photograph. It is so powerful. What more can I say? Your lighting is absolutely perfect, spot on. It works so well for the elemental power of this woman's expression. I'm guessing they're actors. I don't know. This isn't just someone you said, go on, pull a face. There's something going on here. If I remember correctly, you do photograph the amateur dramatics things. I'm not sure, Stella. But there is an elemental aspect, and it is so well interpreted. It is such a different idea. The light's perfect. Her expression, the shout, there's something primal about it, and of course it all works with the way she is dressed. I love it. I love all of these. I love so many of these, and it always makes me feel bad when I can't do all of them, but nonetheless, amazing image. Another completely different take on elements was from Dorothy Groenewegen. I love the way you have captured wind. I mean, it's wind, isn't it? It's very much like our friend, whose name I've forgotten, I'm sorry, with the red balloons on the chair. You have absolutely captured a windy day in such a delicate, clever, subtle way, and also caught a really beautiful photograph. Look at the way it is all put together. Look at the angles that Dorothy is shot from. We've got the dark edge in the bottom corner and with a little highlight in it, and then we've got another dark area behind, which is sort of sandwiching that little wren into the middle of the picture, and the wren is against this little bright area that's coming through. It almost looks like a rush of water. I don't know, maybe it is a waterfall. I don't know. If you're here, Dorothy, by all means tell me. It is absolutely crackingly sharp. The exposure is spot on. It would be very easy for that background to be either blown out, or the wren to be too dark, or the wren to be too bright. I'd say you've got it spot on. And it's also just subtly and beautifully done. And look what a great moment it is. This isn't a wren sitting on or standing on a post. This is just that instant before the the feet touch the post as it's coming into land. It's a very accomplished photograph, in my opinion. I wish it was one of mine. Yeah, cracking picture. Beautifully done. Should have entered it in the birds challenge as well if you were allowed. Anyway, nonetheless, beautiful picture. Another one which I think is another wonderful way of capturing wind is from our good friend Down Under, who is always here first, despite the fact she has to get up at about 4 in the morning to do it, from Jane Barnes. I just think it is so eye-catching. It's like, what is going on there? Oh, of course, it's wind affecting the water. The way you've shot that is really, really nice too. The background isn't distracting, but we kind of get that it's in a bit of a city. It's in a town. There's something going on, but it isn't impacting it. The composition is just right. You've got the light in just the right place. It's coming through those droplets of water. And also there are droplets that are frozen. Let me have a larger look at it here. There's just a hint of movement. But we've still got those little droplets that just caught in the air, just moving a little bit. And the rays of light coming through that water. It's backlit. It's cracking. I looked at it and thought, what is going on here? Beautifully done, Jane. Beautifully done. Beautifully done, all of you. You guys just rock. Another one of our regulars who's always here, Annette Vaughan. I think that is a wonderful depiction of air. Or wind. It's not really wind, it's air. It is such a beautiful, calm picture, Annette. So simple. There is such a simple connection between the child, the girl, and her kite. We know it's blowing in the air. We've got lots of air all around her. The fact there is just nothing. She must be on the edge of a hilltop or something, at the top of a hill, because she stands out so well. It is air. It is light. It is airy. Beautifully done. What a smashing photograph. And so we come to the final one, the one that I ended up choosing as my pick of the month, if you like. Just before I go there, because I know you're all paying the most attention at this moment, remember, if you want to join the private feedback group, please drop us an email, either from the contact page of the site, or there's a link below in the description which will take you to that page. Ping us an email. Just say, I'm really interested. I want to join that group. And as soon as it is ready, then we will go for it. Because I know some people in the group are like, well, I don't get picked. I want some feedback. You can take a lottery in the group. You may or may not get picked. Or we can really work together and help you guys grow. It's not going to be a huge cost, and we're going to get together regularly and do it. Right, my final one, our final one. I keep looking over there because I want to check the name. No, I clicked on the wrong one. What an idiot. Is from Kim Skirton. Because water. It's raining. I just really love it. The way you've shot this is so difficult. And I get it. I think you said in your comments that it was really difficult to get that shot. I completely get it. And I'm guessing you must have worked with somebody who, you know, is posing in the picture, because it obviously is raining. You've gone out in the rain. Now, for you to get that angle and to shoot at that angle without getting raindrops all over your lens, that in itself is a very difficult thing to do. You shot with a very wide angle. You shot with a wide angle lens, very wide, a wide angle lens. It must be pretty wide, because we got that feeling of intimacy with the person holding that colourful umbrella. That wide angle and the looking up is causing tons of convergence, which is pushing those buildings together at the top of the frame. But that is also helping us, because the lines coming down, they're lining up with the raindrops. I don't know if you can see this in a YouTube, but if you look at the picture in the album, all those little raindrops, they're all streaking down and they're following the lines of those buildings. It's a cracking composition, and like the way you've got that powerful splash of colour right in the middle of the frame. If you're someone who's thinking, oh, I want to take pictures like that, you absolutely can, my friend. You absolutely can. Look at what these guys have done and then emulate it. You know, when you go out and think, oh, there's a man with an umbrella, rain, click. Think, how can I make the man, person, you're not allowed to say man anymore, are you? But I'm going to, man with an umbrella. You're going to tell me it's a woman now, aren't you? Stand out in the picture. You have to think, where can I go? What can I do that's different? How can we use all these different elements together? How can we join the dots? We've got the rain coming like this. We've got the lines on the building. You know, how can I use that? Use a wide angle lens. That will cause convergence. So everything will kind of come into the picture from the top like that. And, you know, crouching down in the rain. Beautifully done. I'm babbling because I'm overexcited because, yeah, you guys, you totally rock. Well, there we go. We come to the end of another Photo Creative. It is time to wish you all well. Please, if you haven't hit the like button yet, please do that. If you'd like to make a donation, they're very, very welcome. You can do it on the Photo Creative page, link in the description. And don't forget to join the feedback. Put your name on the wait list because it is going to be first come, first served. The next challenge will go up in a minute. I think I remember to make the web page this time. I wish you all well. Big hug to everyone. Take care, and we'll see you next time.